We all have a top 20 games of all time. At least most of us do. And the more games that we play, the more that list tends to shift. And case in point, there's some sub lists that we have, like our favorite Final Fantasy games, favorite Kingdom Hearts games, even Resident Evil. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite Final Fantasy games because I was asked a very good question. What makes those my top 3 favorite Final Fantasy games? Now, I've talked a lot about Final Fantasy 9, for instance, and 7. Basically, Final Fantasy 9. Why do I like that one? Why is it my number one? Well, number one, because it's beloved by me, because the graphics are great, it's visually pleasing, the OST is phenomenal. I mean, what Final Fantasy game doesn't have a great OST? Hell, even 7 does. I'll admit to that, even though I don't like 7, which I have attested to it time and time again. I resonate with the characters in 9 a lot between Vivi and Steiner. Steiner has a comedic relief, which I find so amazing. I just love his goofy ass. Vivi's story is heartfelt and made me actually cry. Versus Aerith, whenever she actually does die in 7, I did not shed a tear for her because she is annoying as shit. And I love the system. The battle mechanics in 9 are amazing. Now, 9 does have its flaws as well. I don't like Quina. Quina is annoying as hell to me, but then again, I'm not really big on blue magic whenever it comes to Final Fantasy games and never have been. And then with 7, like I've said, this story did not resonate with me like 9 did. I mean, this game has not aged well. Yes, it was the turning point with Final Fantasy games because it took it from the 2D to 3D era. But it just looks like a heap and pile of dog shit, for real. If you go back and look at this game now, it is not pretty like this one. This one is beautiful compared to this piece of shit. Another reason I don't like 7 is because I don't like the materia system. It just never jived with me like other battle systems do in Final Fantasy games. The characters, they didn't do really anything for me minus Tifa. Tifa is a badass, and I will say that all day, every day. Now, I'm not here to talk about these two. I'm here to talk about 2 other games that I recently played over the last couple of years. Now, I've talked about 8. Why I like 8 so much because, I like the story, I like Squall, I like his angstiness, I like, the actual, battle system within that game itself. I don't mind that system at all. People don't like the junction system, but I don't mind it at all. And the triple try is fucking awesome as hell. You can say what you want about it. I don't care. I like it, so be it. So I'm going to talk about 2 other games that actually are in my top 5 whenever it comes to Final Fantasy games and go a little bit more deeper into that since they have been recently played. Remember how I said list shift? I want to give you an idea of how mine has actually shifted in the Final Fantasy world when adding new games to my played list. Now, case in point with that would be Final Fantasy IV. That was the very first Final Fantasy game that I ever played. Yes, I played Chrono Trigger whenever it was little, but I never had access to any of the Final Fantasy games until I was in my teenage years. So that would go to Final Fantasy IV. Now, Final Fantasy IV was a great adventure. I liked it, but it wasn't really like, oh wow, holy crap, this is awesome. Not like Chrono Trigger, but it was still fun to play. When I finally started diving into the other Final Fantasy games, that's when my interest peaked for the Final Fantasy series. And of course, the shift began. Now, whenever I finally dove into Final Fantasy VI, that was a game changer for me because I almost took the number 1 spot away from Final Fantasy 9. 9 is very precious to me. I have said this many times over the course of the last couple of years because of the story and the impact it had on me. Now, 6 had that same example. Yes, now, why am I holding up this port? Well, that's the only way I had to play 6 at the time until I finally bought a completed in-box copy on Super Nintendo for Final Fantasy III, aka 6, that we have in the US for the Super Nintendo. Remember, I didn't grow up with this. I didn't have it. But that's how much that game had an impact on me that I wanted to actually buy a physical copy on Super Nintendo. I don't really collect a lot of Super Nintendo games, but I loved it so much, I had to get the original way that it was actually put out. Now, whenever I played the port of 6, I really liked it. I loved the cutscenes, the OST, the introductory alone with the Magitech, just that walk that you take with Terra and the other 2 are just phenomenal. It's just so gut-wrenching and so, like, you're on the edge of your seat. You're like, what's going to happen next? I resonated with a lot of the characters. Cyan, for example, he literally was one of my favorite characters between his backstory with losing his family, how he, basically tried to get up from the embers of, lost to just deal with it. A lot of the characters had a lot of development. I will say I didn't jive with some characters, like Go. Lord of mercy, no. I could not stand Go trying to do all his little things, trying to get all the basic move sets with him. It was just so annoying to deal with his ass. And again, like I said, I don't really like blue magic, so Strago would be the other one for that I did not care for. whenever it came to Blue Magic. He was just annoying. I did everything I could do whenever it came to one playthrough. Yes, I've only played through it one time. I want to go back and play through it again. I got all the espers, I got all the characters, I did everything I could do. And I have my favorites. Celeste is definitely one. I remember the opera scene is one of my favorite points in Final Fantasy VI that I loved. I was on the edge of my seat. I was almost in tears from that performance because it was just so beautifully rendered. And like I said, the battle mechanics, you know, turn-based RPGs are like my bread and butter whenever it comes to RPGs. So I'm definitely gonna like it whenever it's down to that. I like action RPGs too, but turn-based is more my preference whenever it comes to that kind of gameplay. So Final Fantasy VI was not that difficult for me. I didn't really die a lot. I will say one area that I was really confused on was Zozo. I hated that area. Oh my god. And yes, I will say this. Whenever it comes to RPGs, I have a really bad habit, a very bad habit, and it's still something, case in point, it's become a running gag at this point. I get lost whenever I play RPGs, even whenever there's a map in front of me. Now, remember, I didn't have the Final Fantasy map that comes with the Super Nintendo version, so I literally had to look up a map, because whenever you go from one world to the world to ruin, everything is like this, everything's changing, but where am I at? And whenever I'm on the airship, I'm like, where the fuck do I go? How do I see that? It was so difficult to maneuver the map. That was one thing I hated about it, but you know, that's just with any RPG. Same goes whenever I talk about Final Fantasy V. That's the same kind of thing that I had a problem with. It wasn't as bad as 6 for some reason, but it was still bad enough to where it caused me a literal headache trying to deal with it. But one character stood out above the rest whenever it comes to Final Fantasy VI. And he is my most beloved character from that. Like I said, it was very close to taking the #1 spot. And he was a lot of influence because of that. And that would go to, he's over here if that don't drop. Ultros. I love Ultros. Yes, this is actually a handmade gift that my friend Video Game Restoration had made for me. So this is a one-of-a-kind thing. I love him to death. He is my favorite character from Final Fantasy VI. Just his comedic value that he brings to the table, kind of like whenever I talked about Steiner, that's what Ultros is to 6. Literally, whenever he pops up, he just made me giggle, and I literally would go to the actual, I think it was the Coliseum if I remember correctly. Don't come at me because I only played the game once. So that's whenever he finally goes in, he's like his little receptionist. I would literally go fly there just to see him because he was so adorable with him, you know, doing his little thing. I just liked him a lot, and he really brought me joy to actually play that game because I was always looking forward to seeing him again. Yes, I know that's weird, but hey, I like the weird characters in games, so come at me, I don't give a shit. Now, let's move on to Final Fantasy V. I'm going to talk about that one a little bit. Again, the only way I was able to play it, let me put this over here, by 4, would be the port on PlayStation 1. Now, that's the only way I had it, and I'm like, you know, I've been wanting to play it for a while. I've heard really good things about 5. I heard the job system was great. I heard that it is immensely difficult, and they were right. Holy crap, this one was definitely hard. I want to say I put 164, yes, I put 164 hours into my playthrough of Final Fantasy V. Why did I put so much time into it? Well, whenever I play RPGs, I typically put over 100 plus hours into it because I'm a very slow player whenever it comes to RPGs. I want to try to maximize my playthrough to the fullest extent because, hey, backlog is a backlog. I don't know when I'm going to get back to these games. I don't know if I'm going to get to ever play through them again because I've got a large roster of stuff to play for PS1/PS2 whenever I get a chance to, and I want to experience all these games. And I really don't have the time to invest again in another playthrough unless, you know, I get lucky enough. So that's why I always think that it's better to invest your time as much as possible in a game, you know, and get that full extent of that playthrough so that way you can enjoy other games that are out there because we only have so much time, you know. Now, going back to Final Fantasy V, this game was hard as shit. One of the hardest Final Fantasy games that I have ever played. I will say that up front. I played, you know, most of the mainline games, but this one takes the cake whenever it comes to one of the harder ones. Now, mainly it's just because, you know, the difficulty with like some of the enemies, the placement, and then of course you have your job system leveling. I mean, there's different jobs, you know, that you can go through across your characters. I basically was trying to do every single job with every single character and get it maxed out. I almost did. I think I was missing like two jobs basically, like one for each character, you know, 2 characters, one for each. and that was it, because I'm like, man, I'm done with this shit. I was totally done after that long of a playthrough because it just felt like I was grinding so much. I'm like, man, I just want to end the story. And plus, another reason why I die so much is because I was underleveled, I guess, because you literally, that comes with almost all RPG. Well, some RPGs, I can't say all because some of them are kind of easy. You don't have to really grind to actually not die. But me, I typically have to because I suck at games sometimes. Yes, sometimes. So I have to grind my characters in order to be able to, pass to the next area. And, Final Fantasy V, I don't know how many times I died. Now, another thing I mentioned was the map. Yeah, it was kind of hard to maneuver and try to figure out where to go, which town to go to, but there was a lot of times it was pretty straightforward, with what to do next, where to go, what to do. I liked the story with the characters. I think it was definitely well rounded. There's a lot of development with them. Of course, 2D, the graphics are pleasing. The OST was great. I love the battle music in this game. The job system is typically what makes Final Fantasy V stand out above the other ones, is because there's so much diversity with that you can interchange your characters. You can make one this, one this, one that. So that's basically what I felt whenever it came to this. So I definitely like what it brought to the table. So it actually made my top 5 because of that, because of all the time that I put into it, and because I liked it enough to place it there. Yes, I like 4, but I think this one is better suited for my top 5 versus that one. So that one bumped down to, I think, number 5, and this one sits at number 4. So I just wanted to talk about the other ones. I don't really, talk about mainly like 5, 10, all the other ones I play, mainly, gush over the main top 3 that I have. So it's actually nice to highlight some games sometimes whenever it comes to, the ones I don't talk about too often. So I thought I would take advantage of this opportunity to tell you, the other 2 that's in my top 5, and give a little bit of backstory as to my top 3 as well, about why they made that top 3. But I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you like this shirt, I'll actually put the link to the shirt in the comments so that way you'll have access to it. My T-Fury shirt. Don't you think it's fucking awesome? Yes, I'm plugging a T-Fury shirt because why the hell not? They can make awesome fucking shirts. This is a PlayStation shirt. It has Ape Escape. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII's over there as a poster. And then, of course, they also have another one, too, on here, Parappa the Rapper, which I think this is a really great nostalgic shirt to have. So if you like PlayStation, this will definitely be right up your alley. But that's all the time that I have for you, my friends. Hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely let me know if you want me to answer any more questions about, what games I like, why I like them. I'm more than happy to do that. But until next time, this is the PlayStation Girl signing out. Game